Our tale kicks off with the absolute madman himself, Jack Aaron. He's tracking down a legendary alchemist named Alice to grill her for the secrets of this mysterious world. Alice stares him down, completely baffled by the man standing before her. Her golem sentries never even blinked because this guy has 0 mana. He's a total ghost to her magic. He's the first person she's ever met without a drop of energy. But Jack cuts the small talk and demands answers immediately. He's desperate to uncover the truth behind how magic and mana actually function in this realm. When she probes for specifics, Jack decides it's time to lay it all out. He takes a deep breath and begins spinning the wild tale of how he got here. We flash back a few hours to find Jack in his element, the world's most notorious and wanted bomber. Right in the heat of his mission, he finally secures the high-value data chip he was sent to steal. Realizing the enemy has him pinned down, he radios headquarters for an immediate extraction. Looking at the army closing in, he knows he can't survive this death trap alone. But his heart sinks when the radio crackles back with a cold, brutal rejection. No backup is coming. He's been cut loose, left to fight his way through a literal war zone by himself. Pure rage boils in Jack's veins as he realizes his own people just left him for dead. If he makes it out of this alive, he's going to make those scumbags regret the day they were born. Jack steels his resolve, vowing that he won't go down without a fight. He's escaping this hellhole alone. Even though he's outnumbered, he's got more than enough tricks up his sleeve to put on a lethal show. He waits for the heartbeat of a second, tracking the enemy vehicles as they roll right into his kill zone. With a flick of a switch, he triggers a hidden landmine, turning the road into a fiery graveyard. Jack surveys the carnage. This isn't just a skirmish anymore. It's an all-out war against the military's elite. He pauses for a moment, soaking in the beautiful, chaotic glow of the rising flames. He quickly plants even more charges as insurance, because when Jack goes on a mission, he goes absolutely nuclear. Just then, he spots a few soldiers breaching the building, thinking they've finally cornered him. A dark grin spreads across his face. It's time to have some real fun with these guys. The army catches a glimpse of their target and charges forward like a pack of hungry wolves, but they don't get far before another one of Jack's hidden traps rips through their ranks. The surgical precision of these blasts sends a chill down their spines. They realize they're facing the legendary bomber. Masked and ready, Jack embraces the title. He earned that terrifying nickname through years of total devastation. He tosses one more explosive, and the second it clatters to the floor, the soldiers scramble in pure, unadulterated terror. But he's suddenly swallowed by a thick smoke cloud laced with high-potency knockout gas. Jack storms down the stairwell, completely immune to the fumes thanks to his tactical mask. Soldiers spot him and unleash a hail of lead to pin him down, but they have no clue that Jack is actually hunting them. He lunges forward, pressing his cold barrel directly against a soldier's temple and pulls the trigger without a single shred of hesitation. He bolts for the exit as the entire squad screams for his blood. They're desperate to claw that chip back, no matter how many lives it costs. But Jack's timing is flawless. He clears the blast zone just as his hidden traps erupt, vaporizing the guys right on his tail. The survivors freeze in terror, realizing the entire path ahead is a deadly minefield. While they're crawling through the wreckage, Jack hijacks their own getaway car and calls them total suckers. He roars away from the base, leaving a message that they'd need 100 more men just to stand a chance. Bullets fly and curses fill the air, but Jack vanishes into the horizon, leaving them in the dust. After putting some distance between them, he finally pulls over at a secluded hideout. He cracks open a cold cola to celebrate another legendary job well done. And after a refreshing gulp, Jack realizes this flashy ride is a total heat magnet and decides it's time to ditch it. Out of thin air, a glowing magic circle erupts right beneath his feet. Jack's mind starts racing as he tries to figure out what the hell is happening. And get this, the guy isn't even a Japanese student. He's a full-blooded American. The portal's gravity is relentless, dragging him down before he can even think of escaping. Suddenly, a violent, blinding flash of light consumes his entire world. When he finally forces his eyes open, he's standing in a completely alien environment. He's inside a massive, ancient castle surrounded by knights and peasants in medieval gear. Every eye in the room is locked on him, and he realizes several others were summoned right alongside him before a king on a throne. Jack is spiraling. Is this some twisted dream? No way, because he's still clutching his cold can of cola. That's when a short guy in a flashy outfit steps forward, welcoming the heroes to a brand new world. He introduces himself as Prime Minister Vilash and begins explaining the insane situation they've been dropped into. They've been ripped from their lives and transported to an entirely different dimension. Vilash reveals he's the mastermind who summoned them to serve as the ultimate weapons in his army's bloody wars. One of the other guys asks if this is actually real, and Valash confirms their terrifying new reality without blinking. He doubles down, declaring they are the legendary heroes destined to be the Empire's sword and slaughter their enemies. Jack's just kicking back, slamming down a cola and wondering if this whole thing is just some elaborate practical joke. But he needs answers fast, so he pulls up his status window to see exactly what he's working with. His eyes nearly pop out when he sees his skills: translation and bomb making, both sitting at a god-tier X++ rank. In this insane new world, it looks like the rules of logic have been thrown straight out the window. While the Prime Minister is busy scanning everyone else's stats, Jack realizes his translation skill is the only reason he can understand these people, even those high-level Japanese guys who are already sitting at level 80. This X++ rank is clearly off the charts, and Jack knows these people would kill to have a professional mass murderer like him leading their front lines. When Prime Minister Valash finally gets a look at Jack's screen, his jaw hits the floor because these stats blow past A rank entirely. He's never seen power levels this astronomical in his entire life. Desperate for a demo, he barks orders at his men to scramble and grab whatever bomb-making materials they can find. The second the materials arrive, Jack identifies every single component with a single sharp glance. Valash is floored by how fast Jack adapts and demands to see this legendary X-rank skill in action. Without missing a beat, Jack gets to work, assembling a lethal device right then and there. In just a few minutes, he manifests a rank F bomb right before their eyes, loaded with level 5 explosive powder. Jack's actually impressed. He can see every single stat and feature of the weapon he just created. Valash inspects the explosive, but to his eyes, it looks like nothing more than a basic run-of-the-mill bomb. This meant Jack's special skill was a total letdown, only guaranteeing he wouldn't fail at making simple junk. Jack thought it was a game-changer, but Valash sneered, calling the ability absolute garbage. Any amateur could craft these after a few tries, and Valash was convinced Jack would stay a pathetic loser even if he leveled up. He looks to the king for judgment, since Jack is clearly the only failure among all the summoned heroes. The king sees zero value in a level 1 weakling, and soon the other heroes begin mocking him without mercy. Their cruel laughter rings in Jack's ears, making his blood boil with pure rage. Without a second thought, the king barks an order for his guards to drag this trash out of his sight. Jack snaps into a combat stance, ready to take on anyone who dares to touch him. He reaches for his gear, but his heart stops when he realizes his bag is completely missing. Shock washes over him as he realizes he left his entire inventory back at the gas station. Trapped and outnumbered, Jack has no choice but to surrender before the guards swarm him. The Prime Minister considers selling Jack into slavery, but scoffs, thinking the boy wouldn't even fetch a decent price. Jack glares at them, warning the court that they're making a massive mistake by underestimating him. He knows his worth, claiming that plenty of powerful people would pay a king's ransom for his services. But the Prime Minister just shuts him up with a brutal backhand to the face, and that slap just shattered the last bit of Jack's self-control. He roars that absolutely nobody gets to treat him like dirt. If he snaps, he'll fold the Prime Minister like a lawn chair. But Valash sneers at him to watch his tone and remember who's in charge. Since Jack won't listen, Valash decides it's time to beat some respect into him. He orders his knights to rain down a relentless barrage of punches. Rage is boiling in Jack's veins, but he forces himself to stay stone cold during the assault. He knows he has to suck it up, because lashing out now would only dig his grave deeper. Decades on the battlefield taught him that sometimes survival means waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Finally, Valash mocks him, asking if he realizes that his big mouth is a one-way ticket to a death sentence. Jack glares at the crowd looking down on him, especially those pathetic, summoned heroes watching the show. He curses every single one of them, vowing that they'll all pay a bloody price for this humiliation. In a flash, he tears himself away from the knights and lunges straight for the Prime Minister. He buries a massive fist into the man's face, sending the Prime Minister bouncing off the cold floor. He scrambles to his feet, gasping as blood starts pouring from his shattered mouth. Jack just walks right up and presses cold steel against Valash's skull. He pulls the trigger instantly, not wasting a single second on drama. The entire crowd watches in absolute horror as the scene unfolds. Their brains are melting, unable to grasp the carnage that happened in the blink of an eye. There stands Jack, looming over the lifeless body of the Prime Minister. He's sending a chilling message. Nobody is safe if they cross him. The knights swarm in for an ambush, but Jack isn't just a master of explosives. He's a lethal beast in close-quarters combat. As the guards open fire and lead starts flying his way, Jack grabs a nearby soldier and uses him as a gruesome human shield. He mocks them with a grin, joking that they clearly don't give a damn about their own comrades. He tosses the corpse aside and blurs into a deadly dance. These idiots actually thought a level 1 weakling would be an easy target. But Jack has them outclassed in the only thing that matters, the raw experience of slaughter. As he rips through a knight's throat, he carves through the rest of the squad, and they can't even land a single scratch on him. He's a total speed demon, moving way faster than any of them ever expected. He mocks them, saying they're lucky he's only at level 1. The king finally snaps and screams for his knights to slaughter him, but he just made a massive mistake by getting Jack's attention. Jack casually tosses a live grenade at the king as a thank you for the terrible welcome. He drops his business card, announcing he's the infamous bomber mercenary, and his fee is a cool $1 million. Boom! The grenade explodes right in the king's hands. Jack dives off the castle walls, narrowly escaping that death trap in one piece. Luckily, he's still got some high-tech gadgets tucked away. He fires a grappling hook, the line locking onto a massive tower. He swings through the air like a total badass, leaving everyone in the dust. This absolute legend just made the entire kingdom his enemy in the flashiest way possible. He's pulling off a daring escape after taking out the top brass like he's starring in a spy thriller. But as he's slipping away, he hears the knights shouting the king's new orders. Execute the otherworldly bomber on sight! Jack is livid. How the hell did that king survive a grenade blast to the face? This mission just got way more complicated. Suddenly, he spots a vehicle tearing down the road. He's stunned to see cars in this fantasy world, but I guess anything goes in an isekai. If he wasn't running for his life, he'd definitely be out for a joyride. But running isn't an option anymore. He needs to hijack a ride and blast his way out of this city. Luckily, he's still got his tactical gear to facilitate an escape, and if any guards get in his way, he'll just rip the weapons right out of their hands. But suddenly, he freezes in his tracks, overcome with doubt. Why on earth is he the one coming up with an escape plan anyway? He's the victim who was summoned against his will and betrayed. So why should he run when those cowards should be the ones fleeing in terror from him? Jack's pride won't let him back down from a fight they started. They crossed the line, and now he's going to show them exactly what zero mercy looks like. He makes a split-second choice. Infiltrate the royal castle and end this nightmare right now. It's time for absolute revenge as he delivers a devastating, bone-crushing strike. He mows down the royal guards and breaches the very heart of the castle. He carves a path of destruction through anyone in his way, planning to plant a bomb that will level the entire fortress. But then his eyes lock onto something massive. He stops a terrified woman and demands to know what's up there. She gasps, revealing it's the city core, the massive magical engine powering the entire capital, the literal beating heart of the empire. Jack's logic is cold and simple. If that's the heart, that's where the bomb goes, leaving the woman absolutely paralyzed with horror. She screams that he'll vaporize the entire city, and since the core is irreplaceable, his explosion would trigger a cataclysm that wipes every living soul off the map. Jack tunes out everything except the one thing he wants to hear, that he can technically blow this whole place sky high with his skills. He triggers an ability that guarantees a 100% success rate for any explosive he crafts, no matter the materials. Without a second of hesitation, Jack starts hot-wiring the magic core, pushing the device to its absolute breaking point. He succeeds in birthing a monstrous bomb with a staggering power level of 10 million. Enough raw force to vaporize the entire city in an instant. Jack gazes at his terrifying masterpiece with pride, while the woman stands frozen, unable to believe this lunatic is actually going through with it. As she tries to crawl away, Jack levels his gun at her and asks where she's going, reminding her that they're officially partners in crime. The woman breaks down, begging for mercy and pleading that she's done everything he asked, so he should just let her go. Jack shrugs and admits she was a huge help. But there's just one small problem. He pulls the trigger anyway, because leaving witnesses alive just isn't how he operates. Without a hint of remorse, he stands over her. And before the smoke even clears from the barrel of his gun, he starts scouting for the perfect front row seat to watch the beautiful fireworks show he's about to ignite. Right then, a squad of guards rushes in, alerted by the massive surge of unstable magic radiating from the area. But our friendly neighborhood bomber doesn't even blink, absolutely pulverizing them with his bare hands. He spots another survivor and asks to borrow his car, only to hijack the vehicle and execute the man anyway. With his new ride, he floors it out of the Imperial City to find the ultimate vantage point for the impending apocalypse. Since those scumbags were the ones who started this, they had it coming. He triggers the detonator without a second thought, screaming curses at his enemies. The bomb erupts in a blinding flash, and then the entire Imperial City is incinerated, erased from the map in an instant. Our MC watches the world burn, feeling the earth shake from start to finish, until every single trace of that civilization was wiped off the face of the planet. Jack stares in disbelief. He actually pulled off the impossible. It was a masterpiece of pure, unadulterated destruction. He relishes the view so much that he breaks into a fit of manic laughter. Jack finally finishes his story, telling the alchemist Alice that this is why he needs to find a way home. He tracked down this legendary alchemist, hoping she could finally bridge the gap between worlds. Alice just sits there, her icy glare fixed on our protagonist. But our guy is still grinning ear to ear just thinking about that massive blast. Alice asks him one more time, did he really just admit to vaporizing the capital? He confirms it twice, flat out. Alice laughs it off, thinking he's just pulling her leg, but Jack's dead serious. This is about to be the biggest headline in history. She figures even with the Empire's top mages, turning a city's core into a ticking time bomb is pure insanity. Plus, she can't sense a drop of mana from him. And Jack admits he's no wizard, failing to even spark a tiny flame when his life depended on it. But don't be fooled, because this guy is packing something absolutely legendary. He pulls up his status window, and Alice leans in, scanning every single detail with intense focus. Her jaw drops and she's visibly shaken when she sees that insane EX++ rank bomb skill staring back at her. Suddenly, his wild story doesn't sound so crazy anymore. She's starting to realize he's telling the truth. She explains that while an A rank is usually the peak of power, Jack hasn't just broken the limit, he's shattered it with a double plus. This means his strength defies human logic, capable of turning the wildest impossibilities into cold, hard reality. Jack's chest swells with pride at how awesome he sounds, even if half of the explanation is going right over his head. Alice notes he's acting like this is someone else's mess, but why wouldn't he? Jack's just an innocent guy caught in the crossfire. He was forced into this power by those mysterious figures. But hey, he's actually starting to enjoy the perks. She points to his numbers, showing off stats that are completely off the charts, leaving even Jack stunned by his own potential. Then he brings up the aftermath, just a few hours after he leveled the city to the ground. His ride completely dies on him, leaving him stranded and wondering, what the heck am I supposed to do now? He realizes too late that he should have asked for directions before nuking the entire city. But his pride just wouldn't let those insults slide. Seriously, talk about priorities. The guy's more worried about being out of smokes than the destruction he just caused. Suddenly, a status window pops up out of thin air, scaring the life out of him and making him hate how this world keeps forcing things on him. But then he looks closer at his stats and notices something absolutely insane about his current level. He's already hit level 385. He started at level 1, but now he's a bomber with a terrifying negative 600 karma score. There's only one explanation. Wiping out an entire city just handed him a mountain of experience points. He knows most games cap out at level 99, but here he is, sitting at 385 like it's absolutely nothing. If his level is that high, his power must be off the charts, so he decides to test it with a quick sprint. Jack takes off and he's suddenly moving faster than a speeding car. He's tearing through the landscape so fast that he completely loses control of his own body. He slams headfirst into a massive rock wall, which is the only thing that finally brings him to a halt. This painful crash gives him a terrifying glimpse of the raw, monstrous strength he now possesses. He picks up a stone and it shatters into dust the second he closes his fist. A grin spreads across his face. Jack is absolutely loving this godlike power. He feels like he's evolved into a real-life Superman, and as that thought crosses his mind, driven by his new power, he wondered if he could actually take to the skies. He took a massive leap into the air, but gravity slammed him right back down to Earth. Flight was a bust, but he realized he could still shatter every Olympic high jump record in history. With his godlike speed, he decided to bolt across the land to find the nearest town. Back in the present, Alice thinks his story is just as insane as his broken level, but since his status plate was impossible to fake, she had to believe him, much to Jack's massive relief. Confused, she tilts her head and asks, "Wait, what do you mean by again?" Jack nervously admits he had a bit of a disagreement with the guards at the front gate earlier. When they saw his negative 600 karma, their jaws hit the floor. He's officially the most hated man in history. Between that and his level 385, they tried to throw him in chains immediately for being a walking disaster. Jack was sweating, wondering how he'd ever survive when everyone treats him like a monster on sight. Alice stares at him in shock, demanding to know how he even made it past the guards. Jack goes quiet for a second before casually claiming they just had a friendly chat. Yeah, right. In reality, he absolutely demolished them, shattering jaws and blasting them into oblivion. And as a final parting gift, he left a ticking time bomb right at their feet. He actually tries to claim he handed over a treasure just to get safe passage. Yeah, right. Alice isn't falling for that. Not when it's coming from a mass murderer who leveled the entire imperial city. She demands to know his next move, and he says he spent his time hunting for anyone who knew how to get him home. Finally, a few kind souls stepped up to offer him a hand. But these weren't saints. They were low-life thugs, and Jack had a serious score to settle with them. After thrashing them, he forces them at gunpoint to spill the beans about a local witch who wields legendary space magic. He grills them for more info, and they reveal she's actually a brilliant alchemist living right in town. She spends her days brewing powerful potions to make a living. But the whispers on the street say this witch possesses terrifying, godlike power. Legend has it some idiots tried to rob her and vanished off the face of the earth. Now nobody dares to cross her. That's how he ended up at her door, though he fully expected a hideous old hag. And Alice surprisingly agrees that's the usual stereotype. Beyond that, she's dying to see what kind of insane skills this guy is hiding. Realizing it's dinner time, she invites him to eat. And Jack jumps at the chance because he hasn't had a single bite since spawning in this world. Alice claps her hands, promising to have a feast ready in a flash. But suddenly, Jack spots a mysterious shadow creeping up right behind them. A squad of massive golems emerges, balancing stacks of pots and dishes in their stone hands. Jack's jaw drops as he stares, desperate to know what these magical constructs actually are. She casually reveals that these hulking giants are her own personal creations. They obey her every whim, leaving Jack convinced this is the peak of her alchemical genius. It's insane how they function exactly like high-tech robots, even though Alice has never even heard of technology. Finally, the feast is served, and she invites him to sit down and stuff his face. Jack scans the table and realizes the food looks shockingly similar to the dishes from back home. It smells heavenly, and since she has no reason to poison him, he starts wondering if this girl is actually crushing on him. But even with no red flags, he stays sharp. After all, he's inside a witch's cottage that no one ever leaves alive. He carves into the meat, ready to strike and show zero mercy if Alice tries to pull a fast one. He takes his first bite and, wow, the flavor is actually incredible. The only thing that could possibly make this better is a tiny pinch of salt. Alice locks eyes with him, her piercing gaze feeling like she's reading his every thought. Suddenly, she breaks the silence, telling him that if he ever wants to return to his own world, he'll have to master the legendary and brutally difficult art of reverse summoning magic. To pull this off, they'll need to master complex magic circles and hoard a mountain of rare resources, a task so massive only a powerhouse organization could handle it. We're talking about the raw power of an entire nation. This isn't news to Jack. He's heard whispers about this before. Reverse summoning is his only ticket home, but mastering a spell that legendary is a total nightmare. To make matters worse, these kingdoms guard their secrets like dragons, never letting a single detail leak to the public. But since Alice didn't flat out say it was impossible, a tiny spark of hope still flickers in his heart. Now, he's on a desperate hunt to scavenge the gear and materials for both himself and that massive ritual. He toys with the idea of becoming a high-stakes mercenary for a kingdom, but there's no guarantee they won't just stab him in the back. Plus, he's got a giant status window hovering over him, screaming to the world that he's a professional bomber. There's absolutely no way for him to hide his true identity. Jack despises being tied down, and he knows his path to the top is going to be paved with impossible hurdles. He realizes that if a country ever tries to cross him, he's got the ultimate trump card, vaporizing the entire city's core. Honestly, he's struggling to suppress his primal urge to watch cities go up in smoke, and that craving for destruction is becoming impossible to ignore. Noticing his dark expression, Alice speaks up and asks what's got him so stressed out. Jack just groans, telling her that the mere thought of serving a kingdom makes his blood boil. Suddenly, piercing screams and the roar of lightning shatter the silence. Jack spins around, demanding to know what the hell is going on. Alice realizes someone just triggered the lethal security spell at her gates. It's a high-level trap she built specifically to blast intruders into oblivion. But wait, Jack walked right through that same barrier without a scratch. Jack shrugs, remembering he felt a tiny zap when he crossed the threshold earlier. He tells her it barely hurt as he barged in searching for an alchemist. Alice is floored, explaining that magic is strong enough to drop any normal person instantly. And yet, the guy currently getting blasted at the gate seems to be surviving the hit. She narrows her eyes, noticing the intruder is wearing some incredibly strange clothing. She asks if he's Jack's friend, but Jack just scoffs, asking if he looks like he's here to make buddies. He leans out the window to see which idiot is causing all this noise. Suddenly, Jack's eyes narrow. He recognizes this man. Down below, the intruder looks up and boils with pure rage the moment he spots Jack. It's one of those arrogant summoned heroes who pointed and laughed at Jack when he was at his lowest. He turns to Alice, admitting that the man outside is a ghost from his past. He thought that psycho was incinerated in the city core explosion. Yet here he is, howling for Jack to get down there and face him. Jack knows this is his fight alone and refuses to let Alice get caught in the crossfire. Without hesitation, he marches straight out to meet the threat head-on. Alice stays behind, her eyes glued to the scene unfolding below. He tells her he's got a bloody score to settle with the man waiting in the shadows. Just as he reaches the door, she stops him with a desperate plea to stay alive. Her sudden concern catches him off guard. Why is she so worried about him? Alice warns him that the monster waiting outside is far more dangerous than he looks. She can feel it, a pure murderous hatred radiating from the man, aimed directly at Jack. Jack's stunned by her intuition, but he gives her a confident nod, promising to keep his guard up. He vows to return, because he still has a mountain of questions only she can answer. This won't be a friendly reunion, and with his ammo running dangerously low, Jack knows he's in for a hell of a fight. He steps into the light and gives the guy a casual yo, acting like he hasn't a care in the world. But the man doesn't want to talk. He's ready to tear Jack limb from limb. Jack isn't even surprised, bluntly asking how the guy is still breathing when he should have been reduced to nothing but ash. The survivor snarls that he's been hunting Jack everywhere, fueled by pure hatred after Jack turned the entire imperial capital into a graveyard. Jack just shrugs it off, claiming those royal capital elites were absolute scum who got exactly what was coming to them. The man realizes right then and there, Jack is a complete and total psychopath. He vows to end Jack's life right here to pay for his monstrous crimes. Jack double-checks that the gate's lethal lightning has finally stopped sparking. Then he just strolls out with zero cares in the world to face his furious enemy. The man screams at Jack, asking if he has any idea how many innocent lives he snuffed out. Jack's response is ice cold. He doesn't know and he doesn't care, because it's none of his business. Horrified, the man asks if Jack feels even a shred of guilt for the blood on his hands. Jack laughs it off, saying if he felt remorse, he wouldn't be the legendary bomber everyone fears. Ever since his days as a mercenary in his past life, killing was his only language, and he stopped counting the bodies ages ago. If he stopped to cry over every explosion he set off, he'd be a pretty pathetic mercenary, wouldn't he? Changing the subject, Jack demands to know how this reincarnated soul managed to survive that blast. That explosion leveled the entire city, so how is this guy still standing? The survivor finally speaks up, saying, his broken skill is the only reason he's still breathing, and it turns out every other reincarnated soul cheated death with their own insane powers too. He makes it crystal clear to Jack, he's not the only one walking around with god-tier cheat abilities. Even if these other-worlders hate each other's guts and refuse to team up, he knows for a fact they're all secretly scheming to rip him apart. Jack realizes those scum who mocked him are still out there, and he can't just sit around while his targets are still drawing breath. It's a massive stain on his pride and his perfect track record. To satisfy his bloodlust, he's going to blast them into oblivion. Otherwise, the sheer excitement of having new targets will keep him up all night. The hero is absolutely disgusted by what a depraved monster this bomber really is. Jack scoffs, telling the hero he shouldn't have spilled the beans since it totally ruined the surprise. The hero fires back, claiming he only told him to plant the seeds of pure despair, because Jack deserves to die in total regret. And even if he doesn't, the hero couldn't care less, because Jack is about to be slaughtered right here and now. Jack is actually impressed by the guy's insane confidence, thinking that in another life, this man might have lived in peace instead of seeking vengeance. So Jack decides it's his personal duty to send this guy straight to the afterlife. He taunts the hero to make his move, swearing that this time, he's blowing him into a million pieces. Fed up with Jack's mouth, the hero snaps and lunges forward with his katana bared. He vows to play the part of the Empire's champion, desperate to return home and live a life of pure luxury. Looking back, he'd always been a master at dodging trouble, looking down on anyone caught in a mess as a total loser. He took sick pride in being better than everyone else, simply because he was too cowardly to get involved. This was his survival strategy since his very first day of elementary school. He carried that same pathetic attitude through high school and straight into the corporate world. But eventually, his luck ran out and his selfish lifestyle finally caught up to him. His boss was absolutely fuming after catching him red-handed, selling top-secret data to the competition for a quick payday. He didn't feel an ounce of regret, blaming the company for ignoring his genius and denying him the raise he felt he deserved. In the middle of his desperate pleas, a blinding light erupted, summoning him to a mysterious new realm. He was convinced this was his ultimate second chance to finally grab the glory and power he was owed. But then this bomber maniac had to go and ruin everything by blowing the entire city to pieces. Just as the hero prepares to swing his blade, Jack suddenly orders him to stop. He pauses the slaughter, demanding to know the hero's name before the real battle begins. The man is stunned. Why would Jack care about his name at a time like this? Jack smirks, telling him that if he doesn't get his name now, it would be a total tragedy. Digging this guy's grave later is going to be a massive headache. Without a moment's notice, Jack pulls a dirty move and lets the bullets fly. But the hero is ready, manifesting a barrier that knocks every shot aside. He reflects the entire volley back at Jack, catching the gunman completely off guard. Jack barely manages to dive out of the way, but the lead still grazes his skin. More bullets scream toward him, but he miraculously avoids a fatal hit. The stray shots whistle past and slam into the walls of Alice's house. Jack's eyes narrow as he studies the way his own attacks were turned against him. This hero is clearly hiding some terrifying magical tricks up his sleeve. The hero brags that it's his A+ rank skill, Perfect Reflection, which doubles the power of any attack it sends back. This broken ability is the only reason he survived the Capitol explosion. He's basically untouchable. As long as this invincible skill is active, every single strike is utterly useless. He closes in on our MC, mockingly wishing him luck in hell before revealing his name for the kill. He identifies himself as Manita Koji, ready to wipe Jack off the face of the earth. Jack casually thanks Koji for the name, waiting for him to step just a little bit closer. He whips out a dagger and lunges at Koji in a blindside attack, snarling that he'll engrave Koji's name right onto his tombstone. But clank! Koji's barrier holds firm, sending the dagger flying back. The impact doubles and blasts right back at Jack, but he barely manages to flip out of the way. He draws his pistol and unloads a hail of lead, but the bullets bounce off like toys as Koji mocks his pathetic effort. Koji goes on the offensive, unleashing a relentless storm of katana strikes. Jack pushes his speed to the limit, dancing through the lethal rain of steel, but frustration sets in. Every single one of his strikes is being neutralized by that damn shield. Jack leaps back, gritting his teeth in pure rage at this impenetrable wall. To make matters worse, his pistol clicks empty. He's completely out of ammo. Koji lets out a mocking laugh before swinging his blade in a massive, deadly arc. Even so, Jack is a master of combat, outclassing his foe in raw speed and skill. He weaves through the attack effortlessly, but Koji drops a chilling warning. He tells him the truth. No matter what tricks he tries, he's absolutely powerless against Koji's might. Jack stares him down and asks one simple burning question. What's your level? Koji smirks and reveals he's at level 80, a terrifying height that dwarfs any ordinary warrior. When Jack reveals he's hit level 385, Koji recoils in shock, screaming that he's a liar. But Jack isn't bluffing, having harvested a mountain of XP from the Capitol's destruction. Fuming with pure rage, Koji grits his teeth and makes a bold, desperate claim. He sneers that Jack's massive level only makes things better, because now he can inflict even more agonizing damage on him. Deep down, Jack knows that a direct frontal assault would be a total suicide mission. His only saving grace is that Koji is a total amateur with zero real combat experience. Refusing to let Koji land even a single blow, Jack dances around every strike, dodging with razor-sharp precision, as he frantically searches for a way to slay Koji while backed into such a deadly corner. Koji roars at the top of his lungs, demanding to know why Jack won't just surrender. He screams that Jack is powerless, and running away only delays the inevitable judgment for his crimes. Jack laughs it off as pure garbage, telling Koji he's just wasting his breath, which sends Koji's anxiety through the roof. He can't wrap his head around why Jack is still acting so damn confident. In his mind, there is absolutely zero way for Jack to flip the script and win this. Jack just chuckles, warning Koji that his arrogance is a massive blind spot and he's a fool to think he's untouchable. Pride always comes before the fall, and Jack is about to beat that lesson into him right now. Without a second of hesitation, Jack lunges straight at Koji. Jack lunges forward, gripping Koji's face with a vice-like hold. He wraps his entire body around Koji like a human cage. The deadlock is locked in. Jack has him exactly where he wants him. Now he begins to sink in a silent, lethal chokehold. This is the ultimate exploit for Koji's invincible reflection ability. By just pinning him down without an attack, there's zero damage for Koji to reflect back. Koji screams for him to let go, but his pleas fall on deaf ears. Jack tightens his grip and prepares a special explosive gift for his rival. It's that same low-level bomb he built back at the royal castle. He shoves the device right into Koji's open mouth and grabs a lighter, sparking the fuse as Koji desperately struggles to break free. Jack holds firm, mocking him to stop being picky and just swallow the blast. Everyone laughed when he first showed off this pathetic little weapon. Jack knows it's weak, but even a tiny spark is devastating from the inside. The bomb detonates inside Koji's throat as Jack forces his jaw shut with pure strength. Jack's sinister plan was working. That raw damage was festering right inside Koji's mouth. The power was set to double over and over until Koji's body reached its absolute breaking point. Jack couldn't care less about the massive crowd gathering to witness the carnage. He's just biding his time, waiting for Koji's internal organs to be completely vaporized. Koji is spiraling into a total panic, knowing exactly what kind of nightmare is about to erupt. But then, Koji goes eerily silent, catching Jack completely off guard. All at once, the color drains from Koji's face as he turns a sickly shade of pale blue. That volatile energy surges down to his stomach, doubling every second until his entire frame is packed with explosive force. His skin stretches to the limit, bloating his body like a grotesque human balloon. Jack mocks him, asking if he's ready to be saved, and a desperate Koji nods frantically. Jack demands total forgiveness and a lifelong friendship in exchange for mercy. As the noise draws in an even bigger crowd, Koji is reduced to muffled hums and desperate nods, begging for any kind of release from this torture. With a wicked grin, Jack hauls Koji into the air and makes a chilling announcement. Since they're besties now, Jack decides to celebrate their bond with a friendly game of catch. The only catch? Koji is going to be the ball. He hurls Koji like a rag doll, screaming for everyone to savor every last second of the show. But the very instant Koji leaves his grip, the volatile energy surging inside him hits its breaking point and erupts in a violent blast. It's as if a massive nuke just leveled the entire heart of the city. Jack cackles like a total maniac at the beautiful destruction before him. He applauds his own masterpiece, though he's low-key bummed he can't watch this finale twice. Pure terror grips the crowd as they witness the carnage unfolding right before their eyes. Screams fill the air as everyone scrambles to escape this absolute lunatic. Jack watches the fleeing cowards with nothing but pure disgust. Why even show up if you aren't going to stay for the grand finale? Seriously, have some respect for his art. Our cold-blooded bomber strolls back into Alice's house, casually apologizing for the delay. She greets him with that same icy, deadpan stare she always wears. Noticing his wounds, she asks if he's okay, but Jack brushes it off. All he needs is a stiff drink and a nap to feel like new. Only problem? She doesn't have a single drop of alcohol in the place. Jack feels absolutely robbed and decides he's heading right back out to hunt down a drink himself. Alice stops him, insisting he scrub all that gore off his skin before he dares to leave. She leads him to the bathroom and tells him to kick back and make himself comfortable. Jack thanks her for the hospitality, but his mind is still reeling from the chaos he just survived. He asks her straight up, won't this whole mess just destroy her reputation and make the townspeople fear her even more? Alice shrugs it off, telling him he's welcome to stay as long as he likes. Jack realizes that staying here is a luxury compared to rotting in a slum or a broken-down shack. He finally gives in and dives into a much-needed bath. Still, he can't shake the feeling. Why on earth is she being so generous? He's torn between the dark rumors and her strange behavior, sensing something is definitely off. He knows he's not exactly a likable guy, so there's no way she's doing this out of pure kindness. It's settled. This witch definitely has a hidden motive. He even starts to wonder if she's going to ambush him while he's vulnerable in the shower. But as he steps out of the steam, he stops dead in his tracks. He's greeted by a group of golems standing there, holding his freshly cleaned clothes. Jack snaps into a fighting stance, demanding to know what they're plotting. But the golems just drop his gear and bolt like they've seen a ghost. Jack checks his clothes and realizes they've been scrubbed completely spotless. This had Alice's name written all over it, and it only makes him more suspicious of her. Stepping out of the bath, he finds her and offers a quick thanks for cleaning away the gore and grime. Alice's eyes widen as she realizes Jack's brutal wounds have already vanished. Even Jack is stunned. His injuries have literally evaporated into thin air. The agonizing soreness is gone, all thanks to his insanely high recovery stats. Since he's already back to full health, Alice skips the magic and leads him to his guest room. Jack takes one look at the bed and realizes it's absolute luxury. Alice then realizes she doesn't even know his name yet and asks for an introduction. Jack keeps it simple, telling her she can just call him Jack. She smiles, telling him she's actually a fan of his incredibly resilient spirit. Jack just scoffs, thinking he's just arrogant, but Alice insists he's a one-of-a-kind specimen. That's exactly why she was hooked the moment she saw him and brought him back to her mansion. Jack's convinced she's fallen head over heels for him at first sight. He figures his dashing looks are just too much to handle, but then she drops a total bombshell. Alice confesses she's obsessed with lunatics, and staring into the absolute filth of his soul is pure entertainment. Jack isn't sure if he should be insulted or honored, so he just takes the win and moves on. Mentioning his soul triggers a memory of Alice's bizarre warning from earlier. She sensed Hirokoji's burning hatred, so Jack asks if she's a psychic. She clarifies she only sees emotional auras and spirits, not actual thoughts. Jack's impressed by her cheat code ability, but she shuts him down and orders him to get some rest. They wrap things up for the night, and Jack finally drifts into a deep, peaceful slumber. Morning comes, and Alice creeps into his room, standing over him like a ghost until he finally blinks his eyes open. He shakes off the sleep and gives her a groggy morning greeting. She returns the greeting with a smile and announces that a hot breakfast is waiting for him. This royal treatment is totally new to him, and he figures if she wanted him dead, she would have struck while he was passed out. Still, being pampered without giving anything back makes his skin crawl. He absolutely hates being in someone's debt. As he's digging in, Alice breaks the silence to ask if the meal is actually any good. The food is so legendary that Jack would become a permanent regular if she ever opened a restaurant. Alice admits she cranked up the spices today because Jack looked totally disappointed with yesterday's meal. It finally clicks for Jack that dinner really was missing a serious punch of salt. Her intuition is terrifyingly sharp, so he quickly apologizes for being such a picky eater. She laughs it off, confessing her own taste buds are so dull she can't even tell what's delicious anymore. Then she leans in and asks the big question. What is his next move? Jack doesn't hesitate. He's going back to his homeworld, and he's got a brutal mission in mind. He's going to slaughter every single hero who dared to mock him, striking first before they even know what hit them. Alice thinks his plan sounds intense, but she's 100% cheering him on. Now that they're done eating, she's dying to see his legendary powers in action, leaving Jack totally stunned. She's obsessed with his insane X++ ranked bomb skill, so Jack tells her to hand over the supplies and watch the magic happen. Alice is thrilled by the idea, while Jack figures nothing could possibly go wrong. They head straight to the basement, a dark workshop filled with bubbling potions and dangerous volatile explosives. But as Jack scans the room, a wave of total confusion hits him. Even with his translation skills, he can't tell these bizarre ingredients apart to save his life. Seeing his struggle, Alice hands him a glowing vial filled with mysterious magical fluid. This stuff is pure mana, the raw energy used to power legendary tools and high-speed vehicles. The purer the grade, the more insanely expensive it gets. This right here is magic beast fluid. One tiny drop will sear your skin right off. And that bottle? That's highly volatile plant extract, ready to ignite at any second. You can brew wine with it, but she warns him not to chug it straight, even though Jack was totally about to. Now that he understands these ingredients, Jack's mind is already racing with plans to build some massive bombs. She hands over a recipe, detailing the exact measurements needed for a lethal explosion. Jack scans the paper, but his gut tells him something about these numbers is seriously off. Alice notices his hesitation and asks what's up, but Jack is locked in. Jack points out that the mixing ratio looks completely wrong for a stable blast. She shuts him down, insisting she's the master alchemist here and her recipe is flawless. With a shrug, Jack dives headfirst into the experiment. Just 5 minutes later, he's crafted 3 bombs with a staggering 1,000 explosive power. Jack is absolutely stunned by his own insane craftsmanship. These things are absolute monsters compared to the weak little firecrackers he made back at the castle. Alice leans in, scrutinizing every single inch of the deadly device. She looks up, locking eyes with him with a gaze full of hidden meaning. She calls him a genius because she purposely gave him the wrong formula, yet he still succeeded. Jack can't believe his ears. Alice reveals she handed him a recipe that's impossible for any man to complete, but Jack didn't just finish it. He crafted 3 perfect bombs. Jack's gut instinct was dead on. He knew something was fishy from the start. He never imagined Alice would actually sabotage the recipe just to put his skills to the ultimate test. He demands to know if she's satisfied now that he's proven his mastery over these explosives, because in the right hands, this level of destructive power is absolutely unmatched. Alice nods slowly, admitting he's hit the nail right on the head. Her tone shifts instantly as she softly calls out his name. She leans in close, revealing there's one massive favor she needs from him. Jack finally senses the trap and tells her to quit playing games and just say it. But her request is pure insanity. Alice wants to wipe this entire world off the map. With a chillingly calm face, she asks if he'll be her partner in crime and help her blow the whole world to kingdom come. Even the legendary Jack is left completely speechless by her terrifying ambition. He freezes, begging her to say that again. There's no way he heard her right. Alice looks him dead in the eye and repeats it. She's going to obliterate the world, and she needs his help to do it. Jack plays it cool, joking that it's a pretty big ask, and asks what sparked such a modest goal. So she sits him down for tea to spill the truth. Once they're both settled in, she finally opens up. She begins her tale ages ago, centered around a legendary and mysterious dark mage. This woman had a vision that would change everything, but there was one massive problem. Her human body was failing her, and she was running out of time to see her grand plan through. Refusing to let death stop her, she spat in the face of nature and forged a forbidden taboo spell, a ritual designed to pass every ounce of her power and wisdom onto her next incarnation. She defied the grave, carrying her dark obsession across multiple lifetimes. Jack cuts her off, buzzing with excitement. He thinks it's epic that her ambition was so insane she probably transformed into some terrifying monster by now. Alice shakes her head. It's actually the total opposite. She chose to stay human. She could have easily cheated death and lived forever, but she refused, determined to conquer her goal as a mere mortal, or not at all. Suddenly, the gears in Jack's head start turning as the chilling realization hits him. Alice isn't just a girl. She's the literal rebirth of that ancient dark mage. Alice nods in agreement, her face remaining a cold, unreadable mask. But she quickly sets the record straight. Even as the dark mage's reincarnation, she isn't actually the same person. She might have inherited that dark power and burning will, but her mind is entirely her own. Jack asks if this means the original dark mage is truly gone, and Alice gives a slow, chilling nod. She explains that the mage knew she was too weak to reach her goals, so she chose to shatter her own identity to finally make her dreams a reality. Instead, she cycled through endless lifetimes, hoarding godlike skills and knowledge with every rebirth. Jack takes a calm sip of his tea, processing this insane revelation. She reveals that she's the 13th incarnation of that legendary sorceress. Her mastery over alchemy was forged way back in her second life. Her unstoppable golem magic? That was perfected in her 6th. All that incredible craftsmanship and tool-making was mastered during her 9th journey. And finally, her heightened spiritual senses belong to this current life, the lucky number 13. Jack is blown away by her sheer willpower. Who has the patience to stick to a single plan for centuries? Her ultimate goal is simple: total world destruction, and Jack just can't wrap his head around these twisted, world-ending geniuses. Alice shuts him down, insisting she's no genius. She's just a vessel for the power she's spent lifetimes collecting. The twisted truth is revealed. She's tearing the world apart just to prove she's the greatest alchemist in history. Jack is completely baffled. But to her, total world domination is the only trophy worth winning. Since no one has ever conquered the globe before, she's determined to be the first to pull it off. In her eyes, achieving the impossible is the only way to become the ultimate supreme being. She wants to cement a legacy so legendary that no one in the future could ever hope to surpass her. That is the Dark Mage's true, insane ambition, and Jack can finally see the madness behind her eyes. Now he's absolutely certain he's dealing with a full-blown mad scientist. Jack sensed from the very beginning that this girl was far from ordinary. But the reality is that she's 1,000 times more dangerous than he ever feared. Alice senses a shift in his aura and asks if he finds her repulsive, but Jack instantly shuts her down. He calls her incredible, showing massive respect for the unshakable iron will she has for her goals. He knows the cold reality. Crushing others to reach the top isn't evil. It's just the way of the world. If you lose the fight and get knocked down, history will always brand you as the villain. But if you annihilate everyone in your path and seize your dream, the world will hail you as a righteous hero. That is the ultimate truth of existence, no matter where you go. This world is ruled by one brutal law. The strong devour the weak, and only the powerful walk free. Alice pours her heart out in thanks, feeling a surge of genuine relief. She's never been happier, finally finding the one person who truly understands her soul. Now she reveals that her mind is a goldmine of forbidden knowledge and raw talent. She can craft deadly explosives and might even use her magic to send him back to his original world. With total confidence, she urges him to join her mission to wipe this world off the map. Jack looks her in the eye, asking if she really thinks he can trigger a literal apocalypse. Alice doesn't blink, giving him a firm nod that he's more than capable of the task. He already proved his power by vaporizing the capital, so she reaches out to seal their dark pact. Jack stares at her hand for a tense moment before rising to his feet. He admits that total global annihilation is way above his usual pay grade. But since it sounds like a hell of a good time, he's absolutely down for the chaos. Alice beams with joy as their hands lock together in a fateful grip. Jack is stoked to have a partner like her, ready to live a wild, legendary life in this new realm. Alice nods back, cementing their alliance as they prepare to change everything together. Jack doesn't care what it takes, as long as he finally finds a way back home. He realizes that even though Alice is a total psycho, she's a brilliant one, and luckily her twisted goals don't get in his way. And just like that, the most lethal duo the world has ever seen is officially born. Shortly after, Jack asks Alice for permission to use her lab to forge some serious firepower for himself. She lets him in, acknowledging his elite skills, while she focuses all her genius on one thing: finding a way to annihilate the entire world. She heads downstairs in case he needs her, leaving Jack with a simple, sharp nod. But the moment she's gone, Jack knows he has to watch his back. He's got to get out of this dimension before she turns it into space dust. He's dead certain that if she ever finds a way to end the world without his explosives, she'll betray him in a heartbeat. It's obvious from her history. She's spent 13 entire lifetimes obsessively trying to wipe out existence. Compared to a monster like her, Jack feels like nothing more than a harmless amateur. Jack gets to work, laying out every scrap of metal, every gun, and every blade he has left. But staring at an empty pistol and a shattered knife makes his skin crawl with unease. He's cursing his luck for leaving his main bag behind in the last world. That's where all his real ammo was. Still, there's no use crying over it. He has to stay positive, because this is far from his worst nightmare. At least it's better than the time he was kicked out into the freezing snow wearing nothing but his underwear. If those are the options, then living with a literal witch sounds like a dream come true. He's got fresh clothes, gourmet meals, and the ultimate workshop for his explosive hobby. And it doesn't even matter what junk he throws into the mix. With his god-tier X++ skill, he can transform the weirdest trash into high-grade explosives. Before long, he's successfully cooked up a batch of lethal tear gas canisters. These babies pack a serious punch, all thanks to his broken ability. He's going absolutely wild, testing every insane bomb he can possibly dream up. Meanwhile, Alice is downstairs, completely lost in her ancient tomes. She even has a golem waiting on Jack hand and foot with tea and snacks. But suddenly, Alice spots something suspicious lurking just outside the window. Jack finally finishes an entire arsenal of weapons for every possible disaster. But to him, this massive stash is barely even a warm-up. Now he's itching to craft a bomb infused with pure, raw magical energy. He knows he'll be facing powerful mages soon, and he refuses to be outgunned. Since he has a master witch right there, he decides to exploit her knowledge to level up his gear, but just as her name leaves his lips, he freezes dead in his tracks. He looks out the window and sees a total nightmare. Dozens of armored knights have completely encircled the house. He sprints downstairs, jokingly asking Alice if she invited this small army over for a party. She doesn't find it funny at all, shouting that the actual military is at their doorstep. Jack plays it cool, asking her a ridiculous question about what she knows regarding this ambush. Alice snaps back, reminding him that she's a law-abiding, tax-paying citizen who stays out of trouble. It's crystal clear these guys are here for Jack, and he can't catch a single second of peace. He tries to claim he's just a humble, God-fearing man, but we all know that's a massive load of crap. The Knight Commander bellows a final warning, ordering the hidden bomber to surrender or face the consequences. There's no way Jack is giving up, even as the knights threaten to execute him where he stands. Alice begs him to take this seriously, especially since he's literally laughing in the face of death. Jack decides it's finally showtime and begins frantically grabbing his deadliest explosives. He's gearing up for a total bloodbath because surrendering is simply not an option. No way is the world's greatest mercenary letting these punks intimidate him. He's the one who brings the fear. But just as he's about to charge out with his arsenal, Alice grabs him and tells him to get a grip. She practically begs him to turn tail and run for his life. But Jack knows running won't solve a thing. He's decided it's better to just slaughter every last one of them while they're all in one spot. Alice smirks, revealing she's got the ultimate getaway ride ready to roll. She tells him to keep up as she leads him straight to a hidden chamber. She admits nobody else has ever laid eyes on this as she flings the door wide open. The room is pitch black until bam, the lights flicker to life. Jack's jaw hits the floor as he sees a sleek, otherworldly beast of a car parked right there. He demands an explanation, and Alice reveals it's a high-tech machine forged from 10 different golems. In every single category, this thing puts a common horse to absolute shame. It was her emergency backup plan, but that emergency just arrived way sooner than she thought, leaving Jack totally speechless. He can't believe his luck, feeling like he's working alongside a total tactical genius. Alice tries to stay humble, insisting she's just a successor and not some mastermind. Jack doesn't care about the labels and keeps hyping her up for being so incredible. Pushing her modesty aside, Alice is actually touched to get such a heartfelt compliment from him. But Jack is already distracted, obsessively checking out every inch of that beautiful machine. Out of nowhere, Alice admits that Jack is actually a decent guy, and he's the first to agree, especially when it comes to his charm with the ladies. Pushing the praise aside, he tells her to pack her bags fast so they can take this beast out and give those soldiers the shock of their lives. Alice realizes she's actually starting to enjoy having this guy around. Meanwhile, outside, the knights are getting absolutely fried trying to breach the mansion's electrified barrier. The commander is fuming, screaming at his men for failing to seize a simple mansion. He thought raiding an alchemist's home would be a walk in the park. But his men are terrified, shouting that this isn't a house, It's a literal witch's fortress. They can't believe a notorious bomber managed to find a hideout in a place this insane. Without warning, massive golems erupt from the shadows and lunge at the knights. The surprise attack sends the entire knight formation into a total panicked frenzy. Jack watches the carnage from inside and lets out a laugh, loving these golems more by the second. Alice warns him that the golems won't hold forever against the sheer number of knights outside. Once she's finished packing, she tosses him the keys to their new ride. Jack fires up the engine, ready to put on a show the world will never forget. Alice offers to turn on autopilot, but Jack shuts her down. He trusts his own skills and tells her to hold on while he plows right through the crowd. Alice's heart is pounding with pure anxiety. Jack tries to play it cool, joking that it's just a high-stakes car date, even though he's sweating too. Alice warns him that she's about to drop the wall, and Jack gives her the ultimate green light. She screams out an incantation, and the massive stone barrier begins to crumble. The knights are left completely dazed, having no clue what kind of madness is unfolding. Jack slams it into gear and yells at Alice to hold on for her dear life. He floors the accelerator, launching the car into the air and soaring out of the compound. They crash land right on top of the soldiers, but Jack only pushes the pedal deeper. He's relishing the absolute chaos as he plows through the city gates and anyone in his path. Seeing his targets escape sends the commander into a total blind rage. He bellows a blood-curdling oath to hunt down the bastard who dared to trash his capital. But Jack is a force of nature now, and absolutely nothing is going to halt his momentum. He barrels straight into the commander and his elite knights, scattering them like bowling pins. The impact is massive, sending bodies flying through the air like rag dolls. Alice looks up, only to see the entire windshield completely coated in crimson. She flicks on the wipers, clearing her vision in a single swipe. Meanwhile, Jack floors the gas pedal, pushing the engine to its absolute limit. He tears away from the scene, leaving the frustrated knights in his dust. Panicking, the knights signal their reinforcements to tighten the formation. Battle mages unleash a barrage of spells, aiming directly for the car's wheels. But the car doesn't slow down for a second, and Jack is absolutely loving the chaos. He shouts that this ride is a total beast, asking Alice if puny bullets and magic can even scratch it. She explains that while it's not invincible, the chassis is forged from 10 powerful golems. On top of that, the entire frame is shielded by a massive magic resistance spell. That is exactly the kind of news Jack was hoping for. But then, Alice reveals she has one more trick up her sleeve. She reaches for the dash and cranks up the car's custom sound system. Jack's jaw drops as high-octane rock music starts blasting through the speakers. He's officially obsessed with Alice's killer taste in music. Alice just smiles, mentioning that back in her 5th life, she was actually a professional musician. This track is pure magic, supercharging the listener's senses and pumping their adrenaline to the max. Jack feels the rush, and after surviving so much insanity already, he starts to think this world is capable of absolutely anything. Suddenly, Alice spots a pack of bikers on their tail and screams a warning to Jack. These guys aren't just following. They're locking on and ready to open fire, but Jack is 3 steps ahead and ready for war. He whips out a bomb with one hand while Alice strikes the match to ignite the fuse. He hurls the explosive into the pack and, boom, a massive blast rocks the road. A thick cloud of smoke erupts, completely blinding the enemy riders. It's packed with a spicy stimulant that burns their eyes and lungs like liquid fire. It's a genius tactical move, and he follows up with the real deal once he gains some ground. There's no way they're walking that off. But the peace only lasts a few seconds. A fresh wave of pursuers storms in, spraying bullets at them without hesitation. Jack grips the wheel with white knuckles and yanks it hard. He slams the car right into the bikers, smashing them off the road and into the dirt. He barks at Alice to find an escape route out of this concrete jungle immediately. But when she reveals the exit is in the total opposite direction, Jack's jaw hits the floor. A U-turn would be a total disaster, killing their speed and wasting precious seconds they don't have. Without a word, Alice unleashes a surge of raw magic straight into the vehicle. Suddenly, the entire chassis begins to groan and vibrate under the sheer power. In a freakish display, the tires sprout massive hands that grip the pavement. With a violent heave, they whip the entire car around in a perfect 180-degree spin. Jack clings to the wheel for dear life as the world blurs around him in an instant. Stunned into total silence, he finally chokes out a single question. "What did you just do?" She casually explains it was just a simple command to the golem, since a normal turn would have been such a chore. With the path finally clear, she gives the ultimate order. "Just drive straight." Jack slams his foot onto the pedal, unleashing the full fury of the engine. Believe it or not, Alice is actually having the absolute time of her life right now. Jack can't help but feel relieved that she's finding a thrill even in the middle of this chaos. He barrels forward, obliterating every single obstacle that dares to stand in his way. For a split second, he thinks this is totally messed up, but honestly, he's having the time of his life and couldn't care less. Alice looks over, eager to know if he's actually digging the new ride. Jack is obsessed, wishing he could teleport this beast back to his original world, which sends Alice over the moon. She's convinced she can make it even deadlier and is dying to hear his craziest suggestions. Jack is hyped to see this monster's final form, but first, they've got a massive problem. A heavy barricade of armed goons and armored cars is dead ahead, completely blocking the road. But Jack knows these losers don't have what it takes to stop his momentum. He warns Alice to brace herself because he's about to plow straight through the middle of them. Alice tells him to hold on as she chants a spell, warping the car into the ultimate battering ram. As the metal groans and shifts, Jack's heart races, wondering what kind of beast she's creating. In a flash, the car's chassis surges forward, sharpening into a lethal, jagged point. It looks like a mechanical shark ready to devour anything in its path, and Jack thinks it's freaking awesome. Alice smirks, asking if this is enough power to get the job done. He guarantees it's exactly what they need and slams his foot on the floor, redlining the engine. He refuses to slow down for even a second, as the terrified guards open fire with everything they've got. But they didn't slow down for a single second, pushing their speed to the absolute limit. The guards scrambled to retreat, but Jack pulverized anyone unlucky enough to be in his path. He makes them regret ever standing in his way, then suddenly snatches a guard right out of the air. He secures his grip and has the nerve to ask the guy if he's doing all right. The poor guard's brain completely short-circuited from the sheer absurdity of the moment. Jack doesn't miss a beat, asking the guy for some spare rounds since his own mags are running dry. Shaken, the guard pulls out his loaded sidearm, offering it up as a desperate thank you for saving his skin. Jack snatches the weapon and the extra lead, tossing a quick thanks to his generous donor. He releases the stunned guard, dropping him back to the ground just like that. He turns to Alice with a smirk, bragging about the souvenir he just scored from the enemy. He claims he's touched by their hospitality, but Alice calls him a joker who's never serious for a second. Alice snaps her focus back to the road, shouting that the gate is finally in their crosshairs. She points frantically toward the right, marking their final destination. Those massive doors are sealed tight, but Jack doesn't give a damn. He's going to blast right through them. Suddenly, a brand new threat arrives to crash the party. Suddenly, Jack spots a female knight charging toward them on horseback. Her eyes are burning with pure, unadulterated rage. Jack can practically feel the murderous bloodlust radiating off her. He warns Alice that this isn't just some random soldier. This is going to be a brutal fight. Alice shouts back that this woman is the legendary captain of the city guard. She's a world-famous hero of the kingdom, and that magic sword she's wielding is a total death sentence. But Jack doesn't give a damn about her name or her fancy title, because in a few seconds he's going to bury her 6 feet under with his explosives. Jack hurls a barrage of bombs, but she weaves through the fireballs with insane speed. No matter how many shells he throws her way, not a single one hits the mark. Jack realizes she's more than just a warrior. She's got the skills of a pro jockey, and that horse of hers is moving like a beast possessed. Alice screams that it's not even a horse, it's a monster related to the dragon bloodline. It's faster and tougher than any steed on earth, and they can't shake her even with the pedal to the metal. Jack smirks and asks Alice if she's salty that her precious car is finally being outrun. She finally snaps, admitting she feels the spark before exploding in a fit of rage. The knight captain charges forward, closing the distance for a lethal strike. Jack just gives a relaxed wave and asks if she's looking to join the crew. She screams at the top of her lungs, cursing him for the wreckage he's caused and swearing he'll never be forgiven. She lunges forward, aiming a deadly slash right at his throat. The blade tears through the car like butter, leaving Jack and Alice in total shock. They're backed into a corner, but the knight freezes when her sword suddenly stops dead. Alice can't believe her eyes as Jack catches the bare blade with his hands and jokes about how sturdy it feels. Alice screams out a warning that he's holding a legendary enchanted sword. Its destructive force is leagues beyond any normal weapon, and he needs to get his hands off it before he gets vaporized. Jack keeps his iron grip on the steel while the knight desperately shrieks for him to let go. But Jack isn't feeling generous, and he slams his foot down. He cranks the steering wheel hard to the left, ramming the entire car right into the knight. Her right side is absolutely crushed between the heavy metal and the stone wall. Battered and desperate, the knight begins chanting a forbidden spell to ignite her sword's true power. Sensing the shift in energy, Jack instantly releases the blade. The knight ruthlessly kicks off her own beast to gain some height. She leaps into the air to save her own skin, but Jack is watching. Jack mocks her, calling out how cold-blooded she is for using her mount as a stepping stone. It's pure irony, considering he's currently crushing that same beast under his tires. The knight snarls at our hero's trash talk and screams for him to shut his mouth. She plunges her glowing enchanted blade straight through the roof of the car. Jack keeps his cool, even though he knows this ride is about to fall apart. Alice panics, desperate to know if he's still okay. Jack brushes it off, telling her not to sweat the small stuff. He whips out his pistol and starts blasting away at the night. He really wishes he had a submachine gun for this, but he's got bigger problems. He slams the pedal to the floor, charging straight for the locked gates. They smash through the heavy wood, obliterating the gates into a million splinters. Now that they're clear, he tells Alice to trigger the autopilot so he can finally get serious. He climbs out onto the roof, ready to settle the score with the night captain once and for all. He barks at her to get lost, making it clear that this isn't some charity ride. She snarls that he'll regret getting this close because once you're in her strike zone, nobody walks away in one piece. But before she can even swing her blade, Jack catches her wrist in a vice grip, burning a hole through her with a murderous stare. He plunges a dagger deep into her thigh, proving that at this range, a knife beats a sword every single time. Jack mocks her relentlessly, calling her a total amateur who doesn't know the first thing about real combat. And while she's distracted, desperately trying to yank the blade out of her leg, Jack launches a devastating surprise kick right into her ribs. The massive impact sends her soaring through the air, far away from the car. Even while hurtling through the sky, she's still screaming every curse word in the book at him. Meanwhile, Jack is just standing there, coolly counting down. 3, 2, 1. Boom! He triggers the hidden explosive he secretly planted on her during the scuffle. He wears a wicked smirk, satisfied that his explosive dagger trick was a total success. Now he's definitely going to have to craft a whole batch of those deadly toys later on. But for now, he's just stoked that he walked away from this mess with a high-tier sword. Jack proudly shows off his massive haul of loot, and Alice is just relieved he made it back in one piece. Hyped up beyond belief, Jack raises his hand to give her an epic high five, but Alice just stares at him, completely clueless about what this strange human gesture even means. Jack has to break it down for her, explaining that a high five is the ultimate way to celebrate a win. It's all about capturing that peak energy and sharing the hype. It's pure, unadulterated vibes. Alice takes it all in, processing this new social tactic with total seriousness. Suddenly, she flashes a smile and throws her own hand up to initiate the high five herself. She teases Jack, asking him if he's really going to leave her hanging. Jack grins and slams his hand against hers, realizing they truly are the ultimate duo. Later, Jack starts craving the comforts of home, but Alice promises the next town is loaded with everything he needs. Jack is baffled. Doesn't this ride ever need a refill? Alice shocks him by saying they're good to go forever. This golem car literally breathes magic for infinite fuel, making Jack wish he could smuggle this beast back to his world. But then, Alice's eyes land on the brutal scars the car took during their last life-or-death struggle. They can't keep pushing like this. They need a pit stop for some serious repairs and power-ups. Jack turns to her, eager to know exactly where their next wild adventure is taking them. She lays out their options but points to one clear winner: the independent nation of Uria. Uria is a massive sprawl of southern cities ruled by 4 powerful representatives, each lording over their own lawless territory. Jack's intrigued, knowing from experience that independent usually means a total war zone. Alice confirms his gut feeling. Uria is a breeding ground for the world's most dangerous criminal syndicates. It's a lawless wasteland, making it the perfect hideout for them to vanish, and Jack couldn't agree more. For a wanted man like him, an outlaw sanctuary is the only place he'll truly fit in. Alice adds that the region's economy is booming with low taxes, turning the whole place into a thriving trade hub. This means finding parts to fix their ride will be a breeze, but there's one massive catch. The safe route takes 10 long days, but if they brave the danger zone, they can cut that time in half. This shortcut is a monster-infested forest that only a suicidal person would enter, but Jack just smiles, because they are anything but normal. Curious, he asks Alice if there's another secret reason she's so eager to dive into this death trap. Alice holds up 3 fingers, revealing there are actually 3 big reasons for this gamble. Reason number 1 is simple. Jack is absolutely ridiculously overpowered. Even legendary heroes can't touch him. He pulverized a level 70 captain, while elite soldiers in this world barely scrape level 40. It's crystal clear that Jack's power level is completely off the charts. Jack knew he was dealing with a powerhouse, but this level of strength was completely off the charts. That's when Alice reveals her second big reason for needing to level up. Since Jack is already destined to farm massive XP from high-level monsters, she can just tag along and soak up those levels safely. It's the ultimate survival strategy for the future, and Jack has to admit, she's making a lot of sense. Then Alice drops her third point. They can harvest monster loot to craft even more devastating high-tier bombs. Now that is exactly what Jack wanted to hear. She confirms that monster remains are a literal goldmine for an alchemist. While most people just forge weapons, Alice knows these parts are the perfect ingredients for explosive destruction. Some monsters carry blood that acts like liquid TNT, while others have claws that can shred through heavy armor like paper. Jack could even infuse these parts with his own magic, making him realize just how lucky he is to have a genius alchemist on his team. Hearing his praise sends Alice over the moon with pure joy. Jack initially thought she was the silent type, but get her talking about alchemy and she becomes a total energetic chatterbox. Alice asks which path they should take, and Jack's answer is instant. They're taking the shortest route possible. He's convinced the fastest way leads to the best rewards, but right then, the mood shifts. Jack senses shadows closing in. Those persistent hunters from the city have tracked them all this way. Jack is getting seriously fed up with these guys refusing to quit. He's dying for some real firepower to end this annoyance once and for all. Right on cue, Alice hands him a sleek, custom-modified pistol. He can't help but smirk. She always knows exactly what he's thinking. He tells Alice to brace herself while he goes to take out the trash. Jack leaps away from the vehicle to make sure his ride doesn't take another scratch. The moment the pursuers spot him charging forward, they lose their minds. They immediately open fire, spraying a desperate hail of bullets at him. Jack dances through the gunfire with ease, mocking how pathetic these fighters are. These losers clearly skipped every single day of elite combat training. Now he's going to show them what a real pro can do as he levels his weapon. Jack lines up the shot and annihilates their tire with pinpoint precision. While the enemies are reeling in shock, he tosses a tear gas grenade right into their laps. They don't even have a second to react before they're choking and blinded by the cloud. Jack just bursts out laughing, absolutely loving how he's toying with these fools. He sets his sights on the next vehicle and coils his muscles for a massive leap. Soaring through the air, he locks onto his target with deadly precision. He slams right onto the enemy truck, catching every single guard completely off guard. Jack doesn't give them a single second to react or even breathe. He buries a devastating fist right into a guard's skull. But Jack's raw power is still out of control, and the impact is so violent that blood sprays everywhere, blurring his vision. He's been trying to hold back since the gatekeeper fight, but he clearly hasn't mastered his insane strength yet. Shaking it off, he shatters the window with his bare hands like it's made of paper. He reaches inside and crushes the driver's throat in a terrifying death grip. The vehicle swerves violently and flips into a brutal wreck, but Jack walks out of the flames without a single scratch. Now only one group of pursuers is left standing. He charges straight into the heart of the enemy formation. He kicks off the party by putting a bullet right between a guy's eyes. Once the bodies hit the floor, he starts stripping them of every valuable they have. And man, he walks away with a massive mountain of loot. He calls on Alice for backup, and she commands her golem car to sprout massive mechanical hands that snatch the gear right out of Jack's grip. They even scavenge a hoard of valuable supplies hidden away in the back. Jack is blown away by the convenience and begs to learn magic, but Alice shuts him down. He's got zero potential. If he had even a drop of talent, he would have unlocked his powers a long time ago. This brutal reality check stings, and Jack is forced to abandon his dreams of becoming a mage. They continue their journey, venturing deeper into the world's most lethal zones. Looking at the overgrown wildness, Jack doubts there's even a path left and asks if they're still on track for Uria. Alice doesn't miss a beat, pulling out a glowing magic compass locked onto Uria. Seeing the needle point the way finally puts Jack's mind at ease. That's when he notices the golem hands are busy harvesting everything around them. He wonders what's happening, and Alice explains they're stocking up on essentials, collecting everything from raw materials to fresh snacks. As she hands him a piece of fruit, Jack takes it, absolutely floored by how incredibly prepared she is. Since the car is driving itself, Jack decides to spend his downtime crafting some serious explosives. Jack's mind is blown, even with the ground constantly trembling under his feet. He's actually pulling off the high-stakes, heart-pounding task of forging lethal explosives. He quickly whips up a batch of fiery Molotovs and compact, deadly mini-bombs. Jack is so hooked he wishes he could bring this talent home, just as Alice checks on his progress. He gives her a confident nod while hacking a sturdy branch right off a nearby tree. Then, with a flash of his blade, he carves that wood into a lethal makeshift bow. Alice is genuinely stunned by his insane level of craftsmanship. She wonders if he was a pro archer, but Jack says he only used them on the job to keep his options open. He laments that those soldiers didn't carry bows, so he improvises his own and straps a bomb to the tip of an arrow. Alice suggests his raw strength is enough to just chuck the bombs, But Jack knows a bow is the only way to get pinpoint accuracy. To prove his point and put his new weapon to the ultimate test, he heads out into the wild, scouting the area for the perfect target. Suddenly his gaze locks onto a terrifying mantis-like beast. He asks Alice what they're up against, and she reveals it's one of the forest's deadliest predators. This monster has the power of an entire squad of knights, a shell harder than steel, and scythes that can tear right through heavy armor. Jack is stunned. He never imagined a monster this terrifying would just be roaming around. The mantis locks eyes with him, sensing a threat as it begins its deadly approach. Jack shouts for Alice to slam on the brakes right now. Alice wonders if he's actually going to take it on, and Jack just smirks, calling it the perfect target. He's going to snipe it from a distance using his lethal bomb arrows. He takes aim, but Alice suddenly tells him to hold on a second. She casts a powerful enchantment, surging magical energy directly into the arrow. Jack is blown away by the massive boost in the bomb's potential. Alice realizes that by buffing his attacks, she can rake in XP and level up faster than ever. Jack loves the plan and gets ready to fire. He lets the arrow fly, screaming through the air toward the mantis. Bullseye. The arrow sinks deep right into the beast's chest. The impact is insane, way stronger than usual thanks to Alice's incredible support magic. The mantis screams in fury, having no clue that the arrow buried in its flesh is a ticking time bomb. Boom! The explosion rips through the mantis, sending it crashing into the dirt. Alice hands Jack one final arrow to end this nightmare for good. Jack wastes no time, sending the projectile screaming straight into the mantis's skull. The monster's head erupts in a massive explosion, killing it instantly. Jack realizes he's a natural-born sniper. At least now he has a backup career if he ever goes broke. Alice is certain that a guy like Jack would rise to the absolute top of any field he touches. Jack just chuckles, telling her she can keep the praise, because all he really knows is how to blow stuff up. He asks if they can salvage any loot from the carcass, and she tells him to start gathering materials immediately. Their wild ride continues until they're suddenly swarmed by a pack of nasty goblins. Jack obliterates the entire group using his explosive arrows and some grenades he whipped up earlier. Once the smoke clears, Jack asks what those freaks were, and Alice explains they're pack-hunting goblins. But the peace is short-lived as a massive mutated wild boar charges onto the scene. Jack reacts instantly, pinning the beast with 2 high-speed arrows. Even though the hits deal massive damage, the monster doesn't even slow down. Jack is stunned. Why the hell is this thing still coming at them? Alice yells that these boars are relentless. They'll keep charging until their hearts literally stop beating. She decides to test her golem's raw power against this absolute beast. But the wild boar completely shatters the golem's hand in one brutal strike. Her golems are useless here. Alice needs way more levels to win, while Jack stares down the rampaging boar. The monster pivots, preparing to tear them apart with another deadly charge. Jack decides it's the perfect time to test that unstable explosive he cooked up from Alice's failed recipe. He hurls the bomb and the explosion absolutely shreds the beast with devastating force. Jack is hyped to brew more, but Alice is left stunned by how much damage that failure actually did. She's convinced it was a fluke since bad crafts usually just fizzle out, so they have to stay on high alert. Jack is totally intrigued as they push even deeper into the dangerous unknown. Suddenly, they're swarmed by massive, slithering snake monsters. Ferocious, towering bears block their path, and he even has to face down armored giant turtles as they travel. It's a non-stop parade of nightmares, which makes him realize that sleeping in this death trap of a forest is totally impossible. But Alice isn't complaining, because thanks to Jack, her level is absolutely skyrocketing. Jack suddenly turns to her, itching to know just how much she's leveled up. She reveals that since they met at level 21, she's already skyrocketed by 7 whole stages. Jack isn't exactly blown away by that pace, but Alice quickly puts him in his place. She reminds him that he's a total freak of nature who gained massive XP by nuking an entire capital city. Jack brushes it off with a laugh, but the moment he checks his own status, his heart drops. He's stunned to see he's only gained a single level, realizing that at his rank, the grind for XP is a total nightmare. To help out, she hands him a fresh batch of bullets surging with her own magical energy. It's a win-win. Every kill Jack makes with her gear fuels her own growth, and she's banking on him to carry them both to the top. Jack realizes this is the perfect arrangement for their little duo. He's got zero intention of coddling her like some fragile princess as they move forward. They're partners with a shared goal, and while he'll fight to the death to protect her, she needs enough power to survive if things go sideways. He can clear the path for now, but he knows she has to be able to hold her own when the real monsters show up. Honestly, he's a bit nervous because he's always been terrible at playing the bodyguard. Suddenly, the woods fall deathly silent, and Jack's instincts scream that something is lurking in the shadows. Alice tenses up, whispering a chilling warning for him to stay on high alert. In her downtime, she starts cranking out even more devastating enchanted explosives. Jack instantly realizes these bombs are packing some insane, magically boosted firepower. He's hooked, and she quickly breaks down the secrets behind her new upgrades. These things are so powerful they'll now shred through enemies who are totally immune to physical damage. Jack is hyped. With her help, he's finally got his hands on some god-tier magic bombs. Out of nowhere, he asks her if she's finally figured out a way to wipe this entire world off the map. But Alice looks devastated, admitting she hasn't come up with a world-ending plan just yet. Turns out, total annihilation is a nightmare to pull off, since even the ancient wars of the gods couldn't erase humanity. If mankind is that tough to kill, figuring out how to shatter the whole planet feels like an impossible task. Jack weighs in, confessing that he's never actually considered destroying the entire world before. It's the kind of crazy stuff you only see in manga, but here he is, being asked to join the ultimate doomsday squad. He wonders if his skills are even enough. Sure, he's leveled a city, but the whole world is on a completely different level. Still, the challenge thrills him. He wants to see if he can actually build a bomb capable of shattering the planet. And the best part? He'll find a way back to his own world just before the fuse hits the powder. The sheer excitement sends him into a total trance until Alice finally snaps him back to reality. He snaps out of his daze, suddenly beaming with a huge, unexpected grin. Seeing his joy, Alice wears a devious smirk and speaks up. She's realized Jack is going to be a massive asset, and he reminds her that this partnership is a two-way street. As they plan to tear the world apart, Jack demands she find a way to unlock return magic. It's a matter of survival. And Alice gives her word. She knows damn well that if she gets lazy for even a second, Jack will pull the rug right out from under her. Jack warns her that he despises being underestimated, and if she crosses him, he won't just walk away. He might just decide to make her life an absolute living nightmare. In that split second, an overwhelming, suffocating aura explodes from his body. Alice can literally see the colors of his emotions, and she knows he isn't bluffing. Then, just like that, Jack lets out a laugh and brushes it off as a simple joke. He claims his soft spot for women and kids would never let him be that cruel, but Alice knows that threat was 100% real. It doesn't matter anyway, because she has zero plans to betray him, and Jack is just as fired up for this alliance. He reaches out for a formal handshake to seal the deal, but Alice suddenly throws her hands into the air. She stares him down with a deadpan expression, clearly waiting for a high five instead. Jack shrugs, goes with the flow, and slaps her hand with a loud high five. Alice demands a high five to celebrate their new alliance, and Jack happily plays along. He's actually relieved that they've finally managed to tear down their walls and connect. This is a massive win, because surviving the long haul requires a bond built on real trust. Jack knows that cold, selfish partnerships always crash and burn. After all, we're driven by our hearts. Cold logic and survival math can only take you so far in a world like this. Out of the blue, Alice's eyes light up as she begs Jack to tell her all about his homeworld. Jack takes a second to think, wondering exactly where he should even begin his story. But his heart stops when he notices a massive dark shadow looming over them. It's screaming down from the clouds, locked directly onto their position. Jack white-knuckles the wheel and floors the accelerator, while Alice grips her seat in terror, wondering what on earth just sent Jack into a total panic. He slams the boost button, but his nightmare is chasing them down with terrifying speed. They're suddenly staring down a massive dragon that's completely blocking their entire path. As the beast touches down, the very ground begins to tremble. Alice warns Jack that these dragons are the ultimate apex predators, absolute living calamities. These guys better start hauling it, or they're absolute toast. Even with death staring him down, Jack's heart is pounding with pure excitement. He leaps from the vehicle, bolting in the opposite direction to draw the heat. He knew dragons were the ultimate fantasy icons, and now he's finally squaring off against one. He screams at Alice to grab the wheel while he steps up to buy them every precious second. He locks his sights on the beast, pulling his arrow back to full draw. The dragon lunges forward with insane speed, but Jack releases a desperate shot right at its massive eyes. The projectile catches the beast off guard, causing its lethal claws to swipe at thin air. For a split second, Jack thinks they've won, but that hope is short-lived. The dragon shakes it off instantly. The arrow barely grazed its face, missing the eye completely. Panic sets in, and Jack would give anything for a rocket launcher right about now. Allison shouts that these scales are infused with ancient magic, making weak attacks totally useless. Jack was sure this zone was for low-level grinding, But he was dead wrong. Alice screams that they've hit the bad luck jackpot because dragons are never supposed to be in this forest. Jack can't help but let out a wild laugh, realizing this giant lizard went way out of its way just to kill them. Having a fan travel this far is a massive ego boost, but Jack has zero time for autographs while this dragon is breathing down his neck. Jack lobs a cluster of explosives right at the dragon's massive incoming talons. It's a literal lifesaver, pulling their heads out of the noose at the very last second. But the beast isn't done, shattering the earth itself and sending debris flying straight at Jack. Jack thought he had the upper hand, but he's forced to dodge a rain of jagged boulders as his hatred for this monster hits a boiling point. Meanwhile, the dragon couldn't care less about anything other than grinding them into the dirt. It unleashes a deafening, earth-shaking roar that rattles their very bones. Jack screams every curse word in the book, retaliating with an even deadlier volley of bombs. There's no way he's losing to a giant overgrown lizard. Not when he's the legendary bomber who leveled an entire city. He hurls a lethal cocktail of different explosives directly into the dragon's gaping maw. The beast thinks it's finally caught its lunch, but it instantly regrets that decision as a massive explosion rips through its throat. The dragon is reeling from the devastating blow, and finally the tide begins to turn. Jack is absolutely ecstatic, jumping for joy over his genius invention. A perfect blend of tear gas and raw firepower. If this scaly freak wants another round, Jack's got plenty more of that deadly recipe ready to go. Jack's having the time of his life, gloating about his explosive firepower right to the dragon's face. Suddenly, Alice screams a desperate warning for him to look up, and Jack spins around only to freeze in pure terror. The road has vanished, leaving nothing but a massive, deadly drop-off straight ahead. Jack panics, demanding to know if she actually gave him the right directions. Alice shouts back that they lost the trail during the chaos, and now they're trapped between a hungry dragon and a bottomless abyss. Realizing he can't fly, Jack tries to pull a wild U-turn to dive back into the safety of the trees. But the beast is too fast, lunging forward and tearing into the back of the car, ripping a massive hole in the frame with its jagged talons. Jack loses his mind, screaming that he's going to make this beast pay for every single scratch. Things are spiraling out of control, so Alice desperately taps into her magic to save their lives. But her power fails because the dragon's claw is wedged deep inside the machinery. The impact must have absolutely shattered the golem's internal cores. That's the absolute last thing Jack needed to hear, especially when he sees the pure dread written all over Alice's face. He decides enough is enough, throwing the door open and stepping out to handle this nightmare himself. He stands his ground, staring death right in the eyes of the dragon. The dragon slams its massive talons down, dragging the entire car along with it. Jack and Alice scramble to hold on, barely clinging to the frame for dear life. The beast lets out a mocking roar, clearly laughing at their desperate struggle. Fury boils in Jack's veins. He's sick of being treated like a helpless plaything. With his weapons proving useless, he's forced to consider his one final desperate gamble. He has no idea if it'll actually work, but it's now or never. He winds up and lunges forward, throwing a massive punch at the dragon's claw. He doesn't hesitate for a second, pouring every ounce of his soul into the strike. His bare fist collides with the dragon's scales, and the result is absolutely insane. Jack actually shatters the dragon's claw into a million pieces. The car snaps free, finally escaping the monster's iron-tight grip. Jack is buzzing with pure adrenaline as the stunned dragon retreats, feeling like an absolute god. But Alice is about to kill the mood with some terrifying news. They're already plummeting off the side of the cliff, and Jack's heart hits the floor. Now they're both totally helpless, staring down at the certain doom waiting below. They plummeted straight into the raging river at the bottom of the canyon. Jack's massive level saves his skin, and he frantically swims toward the surface. He dives back down, racing toward the car to save Alice. With sheer brute force, he hauls the wreckage to the shore and drags Alice out. She's still breathing, but they've landed themselves in a total disaster. It's a miracle she only walked away with a single broken arm. She's still unconscious, so Jack quickly patches her up, feeling a surge of relief. He doesn't even care about his own injuries. His high stats are already healing him up. Alice must have cast a quick spell to survive a drop that would have killed anyone else. I mean, she's lived 13 lives. She's not going down from a little fall. Jack pulls some soggy food out of his drenched lunchbox to refuel. It tastes like complete trash, like he's gnawing on a piece of old shoe leather. His blood begins to boil as he directs all that rage toward that damn dragon. He racks his brain for a way to kill a flying monster when bombs and gas failed miserably. The only thing that actually left a mark was that one lucky punch. Getting close enough to land a strike on that beast would be a total nightmare. Besides, his current firepower wouldn't even make that massive dragon flinch. He needs a way to deliver a crushing blow from a safe distance. If he had his old world weapons, he'd end this in one shot. but now he'll have to build something even more lethal. He refuses to let that dragon slide, swearing to rip that overgrown lizard apart the next time they meet. And after the kill, he's going to roast it and have the ultimate victory feast. Suddenly, the roar of the rushing rapids starts to die down ahead. The car finally stops drifting and he leaps out onto the bank. He desperately tries to restart the engine, but the machine stays cold and dead. Jack rips open the hood, but this magic-powered machinery is completely alien to him. His only shot at getting this thing running is waiting for Alice to wake up. But he can't just stand there if he wants to keep them both in one piece. So, he grits his teeth and starts manually hauling the heavy car out of the water. He moves with absolute precision, making sure not to rattle the unconscious Alice. With a final surge of strength, he pulls the vehicle into a secure hiding spot. He shoots a look at Alice and desperately tries to shake her awake, but she's out cold, and it looks like she won't be opening her eyes anytime soon. Jack could easily blast his way through, but any magical ambush would be a death sentence for the unconscious Alice. So, despite his burning frustration, Jack has no choice but to stay put. He's dead set on learning magic soon because he hates being useless, and even if he's getting older, he refuses to just sit around and rot. Suddenly, a sharp noise echoes from the shadows right behind him. Jack snaps into high alert, instantly diving behind a jagged rock. He tracks the sound, realizing that something or someone is heading straight for him. Is it a group of survivors or a pack of hungry monsters? Luckily, it turns out to be nothing more than a band of short figures. But Jack isn't taking any chances, keeping his finger on the trigger just in case things get ugly. He's on edge around these guys, even though he knows he could take them down in a heartbeat. He has to weigh every single option carefully for Alice's protection because she's the only one who can lead him back to his own world. Meanwhile, the dwarves scan their surroundings as they march even closer. Jack hangs back to scope them out, ready to drop every single one of them if things go south. But out of nowhere, a dwarf's sharp senses pick up his presence. Jack is desperately hoping to keep his blade sheathed and avoid a bloodbath. The dwarf barks into the shadows, demanding to know who's lurking and what they want. He declares this is dwarf territory as the others start whispering about dangerous poachers. Jack weighs his options, bloodshed or diplomacy, and decides to step into the light, begging them to hold their fire. He lays it all out, swearing he's no thief or hunter of their lands. Luckily for our hero, the dwarves actually listen, cooling their tempers instantly. He explains the chaos. A massive dragon chased him, wrecking his golem car in a desperate escape. After a terrifying plunge off a cliff, he finally drifted into their domain. He promises he's no invader. Just show him the exit and he'll be gone in a heartbeat. He asks for a guide, but the dwarves are absolutely stunned that he survived a dragon attack. They question him again in disbelief, and Jack gives them a firm, confident nod. He pulls out a fragment of the beast, telling them to see the proof with their own eyes. That massive dragon's claw wedged right into the wagon. The dwarf couldn't resist and scrambled over for a closer look. Jack doesn't mind at all, letting the entire crowd of dwarves swarm the car. They huddle around the jagged claw like it's a legendary treasure. To them, seeing a prize like this was completely impossible. Jack just smiles, seeing them lose their minds with hype. They finally admit it's a genuine dragon's limb and beg to know where he got it. Jack casually mentions it's just a trophy he snatched during his last dragon brawl. Staring into Jack's eyes, the dwarf realizes he's telling the stone-cold truth. A human surviving a dragon is unheard of, but Jack promises to kill it in their next encounter. Now these dwarves are looking at him like he's an elite dragon slayer. Jack's got a bloodthirsty grin, declaring his plan to roast that lizard alive. He's ready to hunt that beast to the edge of the world and blast it to kingdom come. Honestly, the dwarves are totally moved by his insane level of courage. Then they suddenly shift gears and ask if that girl is his wife. Jack makes it clear that she's just his partner for the journey. She actually snapped a bone in that brutal fall, but she's incredibly lucky to be breathing. The dwarf claims it must be destiny that crossed their paths and invites Jack back to their village to recover. Jack plays it cool until the dwarf points out the obvious. His girl is unconscious, his car is trashed, and they're the only ones who can fix it. It's a tempting offer, but Jack knows there's no such thing as a free ride. The dwarf just nods slowly and points right at that massive dragon's claw. He only wants a few shards of that dragon loot, and Jack agrees to the trade. The dwarf explains that even a tiny sliver of a dragon's claw is worth a literal fortune in the world of high-end medicine. Jack loves the sound of that, and officially strikes a deal with the mountain dwellers. The dwarf is impressed, liking Jack for being a man he can actually talk business with. They tell him to follow their lead, but they worry if he can manage the steep climb ahead. Jack just shrugs, hitches a rope to the car, and drags the entire wreck with one hand like it's made of feathers. The dwarves are absolutely floored by his insane power, whispering about his godlike muscles until their leader tells them to pipe down. Jack doesn't mind the noise, but he's staying sharp as he walks right into the lion's den. He's heading straight into a den of strangers, and he can't help but wonder if the quiet Alice would even get along with these rowdy guys. That's when the dwarf asks where they're even headed, since there isn't a soul for miles. Jack reveals they're cutting through the forest to reach Uria, and the dwarf is floored that anyone would be brave enough to take such a deadly shortcut. It's no surprise, considering Jack has the raw power to send a dragon packing. As they travel, a swarm of disgusting worm-like monsters suddenly crawls into view. A dwarf shouts out a warning, but strangely the rest of the crew looks thrilled. They're actually celebrating, cheering about hitting the jackpot for tonight's massive feast. These guys are on a mission, making sure not a single one of those slimy beasts escapes. They dive straight into the hunt with the confidence of seasoned veterans. Jack watches in total disbelief, wondering if they're actually going to eat those things. He offers to help, but the dwarves tell him to just stand back and protect the girl. Jack gives them a nod of thanks as the situation calms down. Once the hunt is finished, they finally make their way to the hidden Dwarven city. When they step inside, Jack is absolutely floored by the massive underground civilization. Sunlight pours through a crack in the ceiling, creating a breathtaking sight he's never seen before. The dwarf gives him a hearty welcome, telling him to make himself right at home. As they head deeper into the streets, Jack is greeted by nothing but friendly, smiling faces. But even with all the hospitality, there wasn't another race in sight. It's clear outsiders never set foot here, meaning his reputation hasn't reached their ears yet. He stays on high alert, knowing full well how fast things turn violent when you're a stranger in another race's territory. But his suspicion starts to melt away as the dwarves greet him with surprisingly warm smiles. His guide offers to take him straight to the village elder for a formal introduction. Jack agrees without hesitation, and before long they're standing right at the elder's front door. The dwarf suggests the girl get medical help, but Jack refuses to let her out of his sight. He hoists her onto his shoulder, determined to be there the very second she needs him. Her powers are way too valuable to lose, so he's staying glued to her side to crush any potential threats. Next, the dwarf offers to have someone keep a close eye on their gear. Jack doesn't sweat it for a second, because even if some thief tries to snatch his bags, he'll just use sheer, overwhelming force to take it all back. He's already mapped out a counterattack for every worst-case scenario, and his cold aura sends a sudden shiver down the dwarves' spines. Honestly, Jack isn't worried about a single thing right now. These dwarves actually seem like decent folk with zero malice in their hearts. They step inside, and the dwarf shouts for his father, announcing that they finally have guests. Jack takes his seat while the village elder looms at the front of the room, commanding total respect. Jack's eyes widen as he realizes the dwarf who saved them is actually the elder's own son. The dwarf steps forward, announcing he's brought a human man and woman into their hidden sanctum. Jack introduces himself and Alice, explaining they were lost and adrift until the elder's son rescued them. Suddenly, the blind elder warns his son that the man he's brought home is incredibly dangerous. This old man possesses the terrifying power to peer directly into a person's soul. Jack instantly realizes this power is a mirror image of Alice's mysterious ability. Jack doesn't hide it. He admits he's no saint and has never walked the path of righteousness. The elder chuckles, calling Jack a silver-tongued smooth talker. He declares that they don't judge anyone for the blood on their hands outside these walls. The outside world means nothing to them. His only concern is the village and its survival. Jack is impressed. The elder is surprisingly reasonable for someone who just stared into his dark soul. The elder cuts to the chase, demanding to know exactly what brought Jack to their hidden town. Jack explains he needs treatment for Alice and repairs for his ride, and he's already paid a massive price for it. The son reveals a jagged dragon's claw, proving Jack survived a brutal encounter with a legendary beast. The elder's jaw drops as he inspects the dragon claw, realizing it's the real deal. He questions if Jack just found it by luck, but Jack snaps back that he'd never lie for clout. He claims he ripped that trophy straight off the beast with his own bare hands. The elder listens in shock as Jack explains how the brutal battle even totaled his ride. That's when the old man reveals the dragon first terrorized them 10 days ago. It turned the nearby mountains into its own personal hunting ground. This thing is a savage rogue, kicked out and exiled by its own kind. Now it's a nightmare from the skies, devouring everything in sight, even the dwarves. A heavy, suffocating silence falls over the room as the elder stops talking. Jack loses his patience and demands to know what the old man is really hiding. The elder tries to play it off with flattery, but Jack isn't interested in his games. He grabs the elder by the collar, ignoring the son's protests, and tells him to choose his next words very carefully. Jack absolutely despises being manipulated, so if there's a favor, He wants it said straight to his face. The dwarf elder starts to apologize, but then his eyes go cold. Suddenly, he lunges with a hidden dagger, and Jack barely manages to dodge the lethal blade. The elder lunges forward, aiming a lethal strike directly at Jack's throat. But Jack snatches the old geezer's arm and violently throws him off balance. This is the opening he needs to whip out his gun in a flash. He presses the cold steel against the old man's neck, leaving the dwarf frozen in total defeat. Jack drops a chilling warning. Don't expect any mercy just because you're blind. Suddenly the elder gives up, strolling back to his seat while erupting into a fit of laughter. He begs Jack to forgive him, claiming he just wanted to test his mettle, since you only truly know a man once you've crossed blades. Even so, he's stunned that Jack's reflexes are actually this god tier. Jack stands there, completely baffled by the old man's insane logic. He turns to the elder's son and demands to know what the hell is going on. The son explains that his father is the biggest battle maniac in the entire village. He'll invent any excuse just to pick a fight with someone new. Jack is already fed up with this old dwarf's ridiculous behavior, but the elder is impressed, praising Jack as a true warrior who masters his skills instead of just hiding behind his level. Now that Jack has passed the ultimate test, the elder welcomes him with open arms. The eldest son is completely blindsided. He never expected his father to pull a stunt like that right in front of their visitor. Sometime later, Alice finally opens her eyes to find herself tucked away in a warm bed. Jack is right there watching over her, and the second she stirs, he asks if she had a decent rest. He leans in, desperately wanting to know how she's feeling after that brutal ordeal. Alice brushes it off like it's nothing, claiming a few shattered bones are no big deal. Jack reminds her that the nasty fall took a real toll, and then he lowers his head in shame. He apologizes from the bottom of his heart for failing to protect her when it mattered most. But she quickly shuts that down, telling him to stop worrying because none of this was his fault. Besides, she's got a secret weapon, high-level healing magic that makes these injuries look like a joke. In a flash of light, Alice mends her broken body, standing up as if she hadn't been hurt at all. Jack is absolutely floored by this insane display of god-tier magical talent. She reveals that in her third life she was a master healer, and Jack realizes just how handy that reincarnation really is. When she asks about their location, Jack explains they've actually ended up in a hidden dwarven village. After she passed out, he encountered them deep in the caves, and they've been treating him like absolute royalty ever since. Alice smirks, knowing exactly why. Because in the world of dwarves, nothing matters more than raw strength. Jack brags about the mountain of gifts the dwarves showered him with, acting like a total superstar. Alice is overwhelmed by the massive haul of food, but Jack drops a bombshell. There's a giant victory feast happening tomorrow. He can tell the dwarves are absolutely hyped for the upcoming dragon hunt. This catches Alice completely off guard, especially when Jack reveals his big news. He told Bapadidi he'd take the contract to slaughter the dragon, which is perfect since he's been dying to gut that overgrown lizard anyway. Alice realizes this mission could be a massive turning point for their journey. Jack admits the village elder turned out to be a surprisingly reasonable guy to deal with. By trading that claw shard, Jack secured a deal to fix their ride and even forged some powerful new gear. To top it all off, he finally scored that premium booze and those legendary Dwarven cigars he's been craving. Even if they are just the herbal variety, he's finally got his hands on the good stuff. For the first time in a while, things are finally starting to go Jack's way. As Alice eyes the bottle, Jack smirks and asks if she can even handle her liquor. She shrugs it off, claiming a small drink won't hurt her. Jack pours out 2 glasses and asks her what they should celebrate first. After a moment of thought, Alice gives a cold reply. Let's toast to the dragon's very short future. Jack's all for it, and they clink their glasses together to celebrate the perfect plan. Later, Jack's lugging his gear when he spots Alice commanding golems and a crew of dwarves to overhaul her ride. They're even brainstorming ways to fuse the vehicle with high-tier magic stones. Jack's floored. She's vibing with the dwarves way better than he ever expected. When he checks in on the progress, Alice flashes a grin and says everything is going perfectly. The dwarves are going all out with their energy, giving her a goldmine of insane new ideas to test. Jack's absolutely hyped to see this beast of a machine finally hit the road, but Alice keeps him on track, reminding him he's got his own deadly bombs to craft. Jack hunkers down, surrounding himself with a mountain of tools and raw materials. His mind is racing, visualizing the ultimate explosives to bring a dragon to its knees. He's armed with loot from his last hunt and premium supplies gifted by the dwarves. With these upgrades, he's about to skyrocket his explosive power to a terrifying new level. Hours fly by before Alice swings back around to see what kind of chaos Jack has cooked up. Jack reveals his masterpieces, Dragon Claw bombs with over 10,000 power and lethal armor-piercing stats. He even spiked them with magic fluid, creating a weapon so destructive it's second only to the city core bomb itself. Finally, he cooks up a stroke of pure tactical genius. He's going to weaponize ordinary slimes into lethal, sticky bombs. Alice is floored. She never imagined these weak creatures could be turned into such a massive advantage. These gooey explosives are perfect for stripping away an enemy's magical resistance. She knows this will shatter the dragon's defenses, making it the perfect target for a follow-up magic nuke. But there's one bizarre detail that leaves her completely stunned. Slime bombs are usually pathetic, yet his are terrifyingly powerful. So she demands to know his secret formula. He immediately breaks down the exact mixing ratios for her. However, the numbers he's giving her make absolutely zero sense. She realizes his insane skill is the only thing keeping these impossible recipes from failing. Jack is just as shocked that he's actually pulling off these volatile crafts. In his past life, one tiny mistake meant getting blown to bits, so he had to be perfect every single time. Now he's pushing his luck with experimental prototypes that shouldn't even have a 1% chance of working. Yet against all logic, they're a success, and he hurls one to test it out. Boom! It erupts in a massive earth-shaking explosion. Jack's god-tier skills are on full display, straight up shattering the laws of physics. With a confident smirk, Jack turns to her and asks how the project is coming along. She reveals the ride is ready to roll, having doubled her golem count from 10 to a massive 20. The result is a total beast of a machine, and Jack absolutely loses his mind when he sees it. He's completely stunned that she built this masterpiece in just a single day.